Good morning. Welcome to the JagCorner. I'm Will Thorup. I am your host here at the JagCorner. Today, here I'm going to adjust my camera a little bit. I'm sitting a bit lower because we're painting, and so I'm your host here at the JagCorner. If this is your first time here, we talk about Jaguar stuff. We talk about Atari and retro gaming. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If you're watching this later, or if you're here with me live today, go ahead and shout out in the chat. So yeah, we do programming here. We play games every once in a while, but I'm an artist, and so sometimes we do some painting and drawing related to the projects I'm currently working on for the Atari Jaguar. Yeah, that intro wasn't bad, was it? So, excuse me today, first of all, for my throat. I'm getting better. It's getting better every day. Like today is noticeably better than it was yesterday. But so forgive me for that. Also, forgive me for shuffling around a little bit. This is actually the first time I've painted with this streaming setup, so I don't know exactly how well it's gonna go. I don't have any news today. I didn't notice anything. Here, I'm going to check my email here really quick and just look at what's happening on the Atari Age forums. Not much. I did notice, in case you haven't noticed yourself for whatever reason, there are more Jag GDs in stock. That's the SD card reader for the Atari Jaguar. If you haven't gotten one of those yet, they're definitely worth it. They're getting better as time goes on, too, in terms of compatibility. I know there's some basic CD compatibility. I believe all the cartridge stuff is 100% compatible with a few notable exceptions. I believe Battlesphere is locked out, if I remember correctly, and I'm sure there's other games that are locked out, too, so people aren't taking advantage of creators' work. But yeah, it's a good device. I did note, I think yesterday somebody pointed out that the price has increased. I can't remember by how much. It seemed like it was over $200 USD. But yeah, it's worth noting that because I know there's been some supply chain stuff. There was a chip shortage, and I think that's what's altered the price a little bit. Saint did say, the creator for the Jaguar SD, he did say that things were hopefully settling down, and so the price would go back down as well. I'd like to be hopeful as well, but it seems like these things never go back down to where they were in terms of prices and inflation and all that stuff. So we'll see. I hope it does go back down. That would be awesome. Other than that, I haven't noticed a whole lot going on the forums. And so before we get to painting, I did put a little more time into the demo. And everything seems to be working pretty good. There was a bug, and I'm going to talk about this really for my sake and anybody else's. So in the removers library, there's several different functions for allocating something to a screen structure. So you use screens to copy and paste things into other display buffers that you show up on the screen, stuff like that. And so I had, let's see if I can remember exactly what it was. Oh, yeah, so I was creating a temporary screen buffer for the horizon on the first card, the intro for the demo. And so I have this strip of pixels, which is, it's like 32 pixels wide and 128 pixels tall, something like that. And then I just duplicated that across another screen buffer. So I have one screen buffer that has that strip in it, and then I just copy and paste it into this other screen buffer. Well, when you make that temporary buffer, I'm used to allocating memory for that. For that temporary buffer that you're extracting stuff out of. And the reason why I'm used to that is I usually pack my data. In this demo, nothing is packed. It's all just sitting on ROM, and so you can access it directly from ROM rather than the memory inside the Jag. And so when you can when you can access it directly from ROM, you use a function called set display buffer or something like that, rather than allocate memory for that display buffer. And so it doesn't have to allocate memory because that memory is already allocated in ROM by default. And so what I was doing, it was a bug that was crashing. It was weird it wasn't showing up earlier, because it should have been crashing the program earlier. I had changed a few things and pulled some assets. I don't know exactly why it started manifesting itself when I changed other things, but it did, and so it crashed at the intro card. Anyways, I just had to. What I was doing was I was trying to free that data. I was trying to free something in ROM, which you can't do. It's what do they call that? The directive is const constant data. It just means it's only readable. It's not writable data. And so when you try to free it, it's trying to write to ROM, which would obviously crash the system. Anyways, it runs pretty solid now. I think I ran it for like 3 or 4 hours yesterday. Didn't crash at all. Only on one Jag. I need to test it on some other Jags, but my next step with this is there may be, so this title, right, or this segment here, I'm thinking about doing silhouettes like Jaguar eyes and having the back flash red or something, and then a Jaguar walking. I may even animate that and just have some things flash in the background. If I can come up with 3 or 4 more ideas, I'll consider it. But I just realized I can't see the chat, so there we go. Keep that above everything. Okay, just making sure. If you're in the chat, shout out. Anyways, so I'll leave this running in the background so you guys can watch that a million times while we're painting. But yeah, if you want to talk about anything Jag related, or Atari related, or retro gaming, or anything, let me know. I try to avoid things like politics and stuff like that, but I'm not completely opposed to that. If you want to hear my opinions, yeah, let's chat while I paint. Let me get over to that. Graphics. Oh, so this painting has been a little bit of a thorn in my side for the last like 3 years or 2 years. I started it a while ago, and I think I did start this one on stream. If not, I continued work on it shortly after starting the painting. But yeah, it's what I call the Crescent Memories family portrait. So you have, can you see my cursor? Oh yeah, you can see my cursor. You have Trevor up here at the top, Trevor McFur. You have Cutter. You have General Patent, and you have Panther, and the character I now call Cat 5. Matt Smith, good morning. It's good to see you. Thanks for joining me this morning for some relaxing painting. But yeah, I started this a while ago, and honestly, the issue with for me continuing a painting that I haven't finished within a short amount of time is I do not want to come back to it, because I feel like I'm developing fairly quickly as an artist, and so when you come back to it, and this is normal for artists, you come back to a painting, you'll see all the mistakes. That's normal for a lot of things, and so I haven't wanted to finish this one, but oh, sorry about that. I'm rearranging. Again, my setup is a little weird. This is the first time I've done painting with this particular setup. So I'm rearranging my keyboard to see if I can find a comfortable position without bumping the camera. Yeah, so it's kind of hard for artists, at least for me, to come back to an old painting. I'd rather start from scratch just to see. It's actually kind of good to do that because it shows you a comparison relative to an idea, the same idea, and so you can kind of get a bearing on how much you've improved, or how different you are as an artist, I should say, from the past painting versus this newer painting. But we're going to continue this. Something that was kind of stumping me on this, and you can kind of see it, like I have a lot of detail up here in Cutter, and then I have a descending amount of detail here, or a lot of detail in Trevor, descending amount of detail here in Cutter, and then I have, and you can kind of see the detail kind of wanes as you get further down in the painting. And the reason why is Cat 5 I haven't entirely defined. Give me just a second. I'm going to pull up his sprites because I'm going to need those today. Because I'm thoroughly unfamiliar with how he looks, even though I made him. I honestly don't know what he looks like. And so while I was painting this, I'm just and I love drawing organic things. I've never been a huge fan of non-inorganic things, so artificial things. That's the correct word for that. Let me see if I can find it here. Excuse me. Oh, where are you, Cat 5? Shout out to Bob Dunlock for suggesting the new name for the cat, or for the robot cat. Cat 5's a good name. And to be even more honest, probably too honest here, another reason why I haven't wanted to come back to this painting, and one reason why I'm struggling to finish Crescent Memories, is because these characters are animal-human hybrids. It kind of falls into the furry realm, and I am not a fan of that at all. So, which is funny because you would ask, well, why did you even start on this? And it's just like, when I first started on this, like I had I had a very limited conception of furry and that group, that community. and so I saw this game just as this was a Jaguar game themed with cats because it's the Atari Jaguar. That's how I saw this at the time, and honestly, it's always kind of been a joke because Trevor McFur is not a very good game. To be honest, it's not a terrible game, but it's not very good. And so this idea of creating sequels or spin-offs of that game, I think there's something funny about that. There's something satisfying about that, that somebody is willing to take a garbage game and continue with that idea and make it better over time. It's kind of like it's a microcosm of the macrocosm of the Atari Jaguar. So we take this bad game on a failing console but make it better. And the Jaguar has kind of followed that story as well, where it didn't have a great run, but as time's gone on, people have kind of rallied behind it and started creating better content for it, and it's kind of showing its potential as people we've never seen the Jaguar's true potential. It's seen its potential in another way in terms of the community rallying behind it and producing consumable, worthwhile content for it. Anyways, sorry. What was I looking for? I can't find it. I've been out. Oh, here we go. I found it. Oh no, wrong one. So that's a little bit of history as to why this is taking so long. And it's funny because I'm close to the point where I can say this is good. It looks good. It plays decent. It's good enough. It could always be better, I'm very close to that. It's just a lot of polish work, like this artwork for marketing, and there's some graphics that need to be done for Audit Will Be Watching still. It's just putting in the time to get that finished. There's probably another like 20 hours worth of asset creation that needs to be put in, and I can find that time. It's just doing it. Okay, where are you? Oh, it's status. Act status. I think that's what it is. No? There you are. Found it. Found it. So, Matt, you played any good games recently? Dude, where's my graphics aren't here. Well, now I'm curious to whether this, 1 second. Whoa. I'm actually missing a ton of files from my project here. Oh, I was in the wrong place. There we go. Well, it's building just fine. None, I'm afraid. Busy at work. Well, that's good too. If you did have the time to play a game, what would it be? Okay, let's see here. Environment? I know it's here somewhere. This is kind of ridiculous. Radio. Oh, let's do this. I know what format it's in, so we'll just pull everything up. There's Cutter. There's Patent. Oh my goodness, it's not here. Where? It has to be here. The program's building. It wouldn't build otherwise. Let's search here. Oh, I wonder if I have it archived. Oh, there it is. Found it. Found it. Rebooteroids. That's a good one. I need to put more time into that as well. I was playing, so Atari, they gave out some free promo codes for some games on the Atari VCS. And so I decided to actually go over to the VCS OS and take advantage of that. And so I got what do they call it? Asteroids Reloaded or Asteroids something. They have a subtitle. I can't remember what it is. But okay, I'm going to pull these up here. But I got thinking while I was playing that, I'm like, I need to go play Rebooteroids because I felt that like this new Atari game that they have, or this new Asteroids game on the Atari VCS, it's good, but it seemed like Rebooteroids had more play modes and stuff like that, and so maybe I should stream that. I don't think I've streamed that one. Maybe a long time ago, but I don't think I've streamed that one. Maybe we'll do that next week. We'll do Rebooteroids. In fact, let me make a note so I don't forget. I just gotta figure out where I should keep that note. I actually started journaling. Which I never thought I would ever do in my entire life, but it's more of a like a work log than a journal, at least what I would imagine a journal to be. And the reason why I started doing it is because Rebooteroids. It's because I feel like I'm a lot more forgetful, or not forgetful. Maybe that's the word. I just have a hard time remembering things that I think are important. And so I kind of doubt whether I actually think that they're important or not. And so I'm like, well, let's find out. And so I've just started keeping, it's a glorified to-do list with a work log, but started doing that, been doing it for a couple months now, and it's actually helped with my memory. I can actually think of things from a few days ago that I did during work and stuff, whereas before it's just like, wow, that day was a blur. Don't remember. And honestly, I don't know how meaningful it is in terms of let's tile everything here. In terms of like, am I even going to care about those journal entries a year, 2 years, 20 years down the line? And honestly, I don't think I will, but I don't know. Maybe future people would be interested in them. I don't know. I actually started playing a new game last night. I don't have a whole lot of time outside the streams to play games. I'm usually working as well, Matt. But I'm just rearranging things here so I can have as much workspace as possible. But it's the new Dune, Dune, the new Dune strategy game. I can't even remember what it's called. Uh, Dune Spice of Arrakis or something like that. Anyways, it's pretty good. It's just a board game. It's like Civilization or just a real time strategy game like that. Um, yeah, it's a good game. I think I'll probably put a few hours into it at least. But anyways, okay. Now I have the sprites up, so you'll see that the robot's actually missing his mouth. Let me see if I can bring that in. He has a bunch of pieces to his mouth. That didn't work. There we go. And I don't know what that one's for. I do know what this one's for, though. So it's something like this, if I remember right. I actually like the way the robot's mouth moves the most. He has these three pieces like that. When closed, it looks like kind of the shape of a cat's snout. But then they separate. The two bottom pieces separate and go to the sides, and then there's just a speaker grill behind it. It's kind of cool. So I spent some time on his design. Like, I wasn't. I enjoyed putting them together, but this is pretty much the only reference I have for him is this screen, and I should have done some sketches before I dived into the pixel art. But dataset user, good morning. Thank you. Hopefully we'll get the robot a little more defined here down in the bottom center. So yeah, so these are the only references I have for the robot. And I should have done some sketches because his full body's kind of like, it looks like there's a lot of detail in this pixel art, but there really isn't. And so trying to figure out, there's enough for this. And what I have started here kind of does the job, like the sketch here and the painting. Looks good enough. What I need to do is adjust the local color because right now it's just kind of all the same. Yeah, I did his head a little bit different here because I wanted some detail there. Well, it might be good. Let's see here, what layer am I on? Oh, I accidentally added that, didn't want that. Okay, looks like I'm just working with one layer on this whole thing. Well, dataset user. Oh, CJ is into the board games. You talking about Cyrano Jones? Yeah, I haven't played a serious board game in a long time, like a sit down. I think the last thing I played, even close to that, was like Settler of Catan's. Oh no, Carcassonne. I play a lot of Carcassonne with the family, but that's a pretty enjoyable game. And actually, I try to avoid real-time strategy games on the computer because I know I can blow a lot of time on those games if I'm not careful. And so I tend to avoid them as much as possible. So like a real-time strategy game I've gone back to for years is the original Civilization. I grew up with that on a DOS PC, and my brother's playing it constantly, and so I started playing it quite a bit, and I still do. I love playing that game. It's a good game. Very good game. But this Dune, gosh, what is it called? This is gonna bother me. I'm gonna look this up really quick. Dune Spice Wars. That's what it's called. Dune Spice Wars, and it has. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dune. Um, I'm a huge fan of Dune. I love the books. At least the book. I guess I shouldn't say I'm a huge fan if I haven't read the other books, but I've read that first book 3 or 4 times now. Really like it, and I do have plans on reading the other 2 books uh, here in the next year or two. Um, let's see here. What am I doing back here? He has a neck, which is a little bit darker than the rest. Here, let's finish out his chin here. It's squared up. Anyways, I played for a couple hours last night. It's pretty good. Honestly, I don't know if I'm gonna get sucked into it like Civilization, but I think I will enjoy it at least for 10 or 20 hours at least. Okay, so I don't know if you guys want an art lesson. I know that's not why you're here, but shadows or light and shadows do funny things sometimes. So lights are interesting. And you'll know this if you've ever done any 3D work too. If you're trying to make something look realistic in a 3D program like Blender, that's the program I'm in my day job when I'm doing motion graphics and that stuff. But the way you get light to look good is you don't use a single color for the light. So right now I'm kind of using this this pale blue here. What you can do, and like where I've seen this lesson is with snow. When you paint snow or any solid color, really, you don't paint it one solid color. You do what I call a hue shift. So, for example, we have this pale blue, but we also have this in the reference over here in this full body. We have kind of this beige, this next generation enterprise bridge beige, as I call it. I think that's probably what I was inspired by. I was probably watching Next Generation while I was designing them. But you do a hue shift, and so I have this pale blue, right? And what I can do is actually just take my color wheel and rotate it all the way over to that beige. Don't change the value, just leave everything else as it is. And then you just lightly go over it like that. And then what I do is I color pick kind of a lighter value that comes out of that brush stroke and just add just a little bit of that hue inside that blue. And what it does is it kind of makes that color feel alive. Is the best way I know how to put it. Because in reality, you have all sorts of lights and colors reflecting off of everything. And especially in nature, you have a lot of greens, and so you'll find like painting human skin and like out in the outside, when you're doing that, you'll want to paint with a lot of greens in the skin tone, and most people's first intuition there is like, no, why would you paint it green? That doesn't make any sense. Human skin isn't green, and it isn't, not completely. It's actually all the colors, just in different ratios, and so that's why doing a hue shift in these solid colors can make things feel alive. So another thing I got to do here is adjust the local colors. So a local color is just, and there's different terms for this. Is the if you took away all the light, or if you made all the light perfectly even and you took out the shadows, what would be the difference between the colors? So like this gray is going to have a darker local color than the beige, regardless of the light source. So, and I haven't really done that here with the robot yet. Yeah, so I've been playing Dune Spice Wars. I've been ever since I got that VGA output on the links. I've been playing some games on that. That's been good. Um, I actually have right here. I have Kings of Edom pulled out because I think I would like to play a little bit more of that. Let me know if you guys would like to see that next week. I was actually thinking about giving you guys an option today if you didn't want to watch me playing this or painting. But yeah, I got that out. I want to spend a little more time with that. I don't think anybody's beaten it yet. I haven't heard of anybody beating it. Not on the forums, anyways. Nobody's announced it over there. And so it's a game I would like to beat eventually, but it seems like based on the comments on the forums, it seems like it's going to take a while for people to beat that one. Yay, Kings of Edom would be nice next week. I need to sink more time into that myself. Yeah, so yeah, I think we will play that next week. Maybe I'll do. Matt said he's been wanting to play Rebooteroids. So maybe I'll do a little bit of streaming on that next week. And we'll do some Kings of Edom, because there's multiple crowns, that's right. So let's see here. I think I want this to be just a little bit darker. Yeah, that feels good. And see, I need to go through and do this for all the local color on his face now. That's okay. We'll just be quick about it. So probably been working on my edges a little too much here. Actually, his face is starting to look kind of cool, isn't it? And then his visor up here, his Cylon visor, as I call it. I've actually never seen Battlestar Galactica. It looks like a show I'd probably enjoy, at least the new one, if not also the old one. But I don't have access to it. Don't have it on DVD. Actually, I'm not subscribed to any streaming platforms right now. But what, you need to see it. You'll enjoy the old and the new one. I'm pretty sure I'd enjoy the old one. I've seen clips of it. I think I would enjoy that one quite a bit. The new one, I know it was a cable TV show, and usually with cable TV, it can get a little risque. And I don't mind that too much. It's just when it's obviously just to keep eyeballs on the screen rather than servicing the story. I bothers me a little bit. But I need to give it a try. I've heard really good things about it. And so I definitely need to give it a try. Battlestar Galactica. It's a little weird that we haven't seen anything since that TV series. At least I'm not aware of anything that's come out after that last TV series. And from what I understand, that TV series was really popular on Sci-Fi Channel, anyways. So it's a little weird not seeing more content for that. And that always gets me concerned when stuff like that happens to an IP, to an intellectual property like a sci-fi one. It's like, what was it really that good if nobody's talking or demanding more content? I try to wait on these things that get hot really fast in pop culture. I try to just stay away from it for a little bit if it gets really big really fast, to really see if people are still talking about it, a few years after the fact, to see if it's actually good. Because if people are still talking about it a year or two after it's come out, it's a pretty good sign that it was worth watching. Okay, what was I? Oh yeah, that's what I was going to talk to you guys about. So why I was talking about color and there's all sorts of different colors in on a surface when you see it. Is another thing happens uh, at the point where shadows or light goes into shadow, and usually with lights you'll have a separation of color, and in extreme circumstances you can really see that separation of color. I just realized I'm not looking at this as I should. You'll see a separation of color. You'll see that separation of color distinctly at the threshold between light and dark, and so we have this blue going on. But what I want to do is change the hue a little more drastically at that threshold. I just need to decide which direction to go. Like my intuition's telling me I push this way. Make it a little bit darker. And so there's a little more green than there is blue because, gosh, what is a good example of this? Like the way I would simulate this in real life is I'd have two lights that I can adjust the what do they call that? The temperature on, so from a cold light to a warm light, and you put them both really close to each other, and one's really cold and one's really light, and then when you look at the shadows, like when shadows are cast, you'll see that there's a separation in the color. Don't see the screen with what you're drawing. Oh, sorry, forgot to switch it over. You'd think I'd be getting better with that. Anyways, yeah, so right here I was just adding, I was doing a hue shift. So if you look at my color wheel here, I have this blue. And then as that light rolls around the surface, we shift it. It's still kind of a blue, but we're adding some green into it. Because for whatever reason, this light that's shining on them on this side, it separates into that green, or that green is kind of left over as it's going into shadow. And this is a really good way to make, first of all, your edges or your thresholds between shadows look really, really good, but it makes things feel alive or a little more organic rather than flat. And up close like this, it doesn't look amazing, but when you pull away and the eye kind of collects all the data that is the image, it makes the image feel more interesting, more satisfying. Yeah. Anyways, it's almost like line art. If you're just doing line art, and this is one thing that line art does is it creates these distinct separations between blocks of color, and so that's kind of what this is. It's just separating that color, or separating those lights and shadows. We need to get his visor in here. He needs to have his awesome Cylon visor. That's how we got on a Battlestar Galactica. Let's see here. Yeah, this will probably work. And this is going to have a really vibrant local color because it will be lit up. I got to decide how far it's going to go back. Something like that. So I saw an interesting Jaguar video the other day, and I was actually considering streaming that today and commenting on it. I don't know if you guys would be interested. Oh, sorry, I'll answer your question here. So when have you started drawing actually? So I started, I remember the year, at least the grade year of when I started drawing, or decided I wanted to be an artist of some sort. And that was 5th grade, which I believe is 10 or 11 years old. Yeah, that sounds right. This is actually going to be red. So that's when I started, and my generation unfortunately got a heavy dose of anime, and so that's where I started. I started drawing anime and manga stuff, but I've gravitated away from that. You can still see that influence in my art, and I do like it. If you follow me on Instagram, I one of the things I love to draw most are beautiful women. So, and that definitely comes from that anime phase. There's definitely a culture of cute and beauty in that artwork. And so that's stuck around, but I don't like simplifying my art down to just a tiny line for the nose and stuff. Sometimes I'll jump back to it to kind of explore that past self, that past interest, but typically most of my art is so it's a little more realistic. Like I had somebody, I think it was a brother or something, tell me that some of my art looked like something out of Mad Magazine almost. I'm not familiar with Mad Magazine, and so I didn't grow up with that. But yeah, so it started pretty young. I've always had an interest in art. Um, I don't consider myself an amazing artist. I actually probably shouldn't be doing illustration to tell you the truth, because once you start to learn, when you learn something, you learn how good or bad you are at it, or how quickly you pick up on things. Like for example, programming. I'm not an amazing programmer either, and so I probably have no business actually programming Jag games. But the reason why I'm doing it is I wanna be able to tell stories, and that's why I draw and paint too. Is I do like to tell stories. Um, so I've been really grateful to like Albert at Atari Age and Carl at Songbird for letting me work on some box art projects, because it's cool to. I have a lot of freedom with those projects. First of all, because it's just homebrew, so there isn't a huge market for it, and so it allows me as a somewhat mediocre artist to just uh, just try to tell a story, because that's what I'm looking to do. Always like stories. I'm getting better at storytelling. That's one reason why I'm writing this book. I'm working on a book that's it's Atari. It's Atari adjacent. It's retro gaming adjacent, but it has an Atari edge, and it's gonna have some commentary on collecting culture and stuff. Subtle commentary. It won't be on the nose. It's actually a fantasy story. Um, but yeah, and so I'm using my love of retro gaming and Atari to kind of fuel some ideas I've had about my own life, um, in terms of my relationship to this old computer stuff, because that's what it is. It's just stuff, but that stuff does have an impact on us, and yeah. So I'm looking forward to working on that. I've been very grateful to work on these projects for Albert. I'm so my day job is I'm a motion graphics artist and designer. So I'm designing elements mostly for commercials, a lot for like company onboarding videos. Uh, Kind of the layman's way I put this is I make videos that would otherwise be boring interesting. So for example, I finished an onboarding video for a medical test company. What do they call that? I should know this. uh, Medical research. So it's where people go in and they become guinea pigs essentially. Even though in the video they say you're not a guinea pig, but the video is just it gets people ready. It prepares people for the process they're about to go through for testing medication, and they wanted to make it interesting, and so I designed a character. I 3D animated this character, and he's flying around in these cool 3D environments, and so that's what I do during my day job is I make boring videos interesting, and I do that with motion graphics. And so sometimes it's character animation, sometimes it's just text moving on a screen, but in an interesting way. And that's why I call myself a designer as well, is because with motion graphics you're designing animation, so how things move, and doing that in an interesting way. But the thing is about motion graphics, and this happens to a lot of industries, it isn't just motion graphics, but is uh, the field changes radically or quickly. It changes really quickly, really, really fast, sometimes in radical ways too. Um, so I've been learning 3D since I was probably about 12 years old, or a little bit later, probably 8th or ninth grade, so 13, 14 years old, because well, going way back when I was like 5 or 6 years old, I remember one of my brothers had bootlegged 3D Studio Max 2.5, I think, if I remember right. And I remember sitting down to that, and I somehow learned how to model spaceships. This is before we had internet, and so I say somehow learned because I honestly don't know how I learned. Maybe I watched one of my brothers or something, and he figured some stuff out. But yeah, so I modeled these spaceships, and I was able to animate them flying past the camera and shooting a few things, I think. And this was when I was like 5 or 6, and so I'd like to say I have a talent for 3D, but again, I feel like a jack of all trades. I've never gotten amazing at anything, but I do apply myself quite a bit, and I can get maybe just above mediocre. I can get enough so I can make something sellable. So, anyways, so that's where the 3D started, and so I've always had a passion for 3D. In high school, they started a 3D program. And that 3D program, the teacher actually didn't know a whole lot. He just knew that there needed to be a 3D program because he saw it as something very valuable for students in the near future. And so I actually had the opportunity to help teach that class a little bit because I had a leg up already. I had been dabbling in Blender by that time in high school. Because one of my brothers had discovered Blender, and I use Blender, which is an open source application. I use that for 90% of my work now, for my day job, and it works great. It's an amazing application. And so going back to things changing drastically, Blender is a great example of that, because before Blender, you had to shell out quite a bit of money to get a legitimate license of 3D Studio Max or Maya, or even lesser programs like Lightwave or Cinema 4D, which is now part of After Effects, which is and it does a good job. I've worked in it a little bit. Anyways, but Blender was a huge game changer because now anybody could pick up and learn it, and have access to a full set of 3D tools. And at the time, it wasn't as developed as 3D Studio Max and Maya, but in the last 15 years that I've been using it for everything I do, I don't need to spend a penny on the software I use. But here's why that's a big deal, or why this is concerning, is that the cost of an application can be a barrier to entry to an industry, right? Well, that door's been thrown wide open, and so now you have way more people than who would have even considered going into this field now going into this field, and so I'm going to be outpaced by younger people within the next 10 years. I won't be able to keep up with it, and honestly, I don't want to keep up with it because it is just changing so quickly. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to sidestep my business into illustration, which is a more established industry. It's moving a little bit slower in terms of the tools and techniques used, and so I think I can keep up with that a bit easier. Plus, I have that 3D skill that I can apply to it. It gives me an edge over a lot of other 2D artists. It speeds up my processes. Anyways, that's my art story, both past and present. Yeah, I love art. I love drawing. I'm definitely no, what's the word, savant or prodigy, but I enjoy it, and I want to tell stories, and I'm trying to hybridize this my obsession for the Jag and Atari and that stuff into products and content. I don't want to say products, content people that enjoy, and I want to write more, and so my next big project is this book. I do need to get Crescent Memories done so I can feel like I can spend more time on that. So I got too much on my plate, as I always have had. I've always liked to keep myself busy with this stuff. Yeah, doesn't that edge look so much better with that kind of dark teal, whatever that's called. Looks way better. Am I happy with the... Yeah, that's fine. Interesting. Thanks for being so open. The book idea sounds interesting. Yeah, and I have some, like, I've started on the story. It's a little long right now, and so I want to condense it. I want the book to be about 100 pages. It's going to be a coffee table book, probably somewhere around that big. And it'll be mixed with illustrations. I'll be illustrating it as well. And I don't know if that'll be an illustration on every page, kind of like a children's book. It probably won't be that. It'll probably be like every 3 or 4 pages there will be an illustration. That way I'm not doing 50 illustrations. That's a ton of work. That's 50 times 20. That's like 1,000 hours worth of work of painting. About. How's that looking? Oh yeah, that's looking great. So his visor has this really cool hot spot in it. I just have to decide where to put it. Everybody else is kind of looking at the camera, and so I think I want his... He literally has like a Cylon eye, you know, that thing that goes back and forth. So that's the way it looks in the game. And so we're going to do that here as well. Yeah, it seems... I'm just going to ramble about art here for a little bit. Tell me to shut up if it gets boring. I have quite a few nieces and nephews, and it's been interesting to see how many of them are interested in drawing and art. And I think most children, they like doing that because they have access to way more art supplies than previous generations. And so you have a lot more kids because drawing and painting's fun, especially when you don't take it seriously like I do. it's a lot of fun. And so you have a lot more young people thinking that they're going to be artists, but probably shouldn't be artists. And I know that sounds a little bit mean, but I often wonder what I would be doing if my parents were a little more strict about, nah, you should be a doctor or a lawyer or even in a trade like welding or pipe fitting or something. You know, my parents aren't opposed to their kids doing those things, and there's a lot of money in that actually. And so I the way I encourage my nieces and nephews when they see my artwork and stuff and they're like, oh, I want to be an artist too, is I say, you can be an artist, but let me tell you something. It isn't always fun. In fact, the reason why I know I probably should be an artist is most of the time painting and drawing for me, it isn't enjoyable. At best, it's peaceful. It's kind of like I'm coasting. Is the best way I've found to explain it. And a lot of the times it's frustrating. It is weirdly frustrating. I need to talk about this more so I can actually define this a little bit better in words, because I don't talk about it enough. Because I actually, for example, this family portrait, this is something that should have been done years ago. And it's not. And when I say frustrated, I guess I'm saying I'm super frustrated with myself. That if I really love this, shouldn't I have the motivation to like finish it in a day or two? And I'm coming to learn that it isn't about finishing things quick. That finishing quickly it shouldn't be a reflection of how much I like it. And the reason why I know I'm supposed to be some sort of artist, not necessarily an illustrator or painter or something, some sort of artist, is that even though I don't finish it quickly all the time, I do finish it eventually, even though it's frustrating. I think that's how I know I love it. Is the things that you love don't necessarily treat you nice all the time. Kids are a great example of this. Even though I'm not married, all my siblings are married, and so I've had an opportunity to see their kids and be around their kids and how they react to their kids and how frustrating their kids can be. And that's just kids. That's the way they are. And yet you still love them, right? And so that's how I frame art in my life is it is frustrating. It's frustrating that I'm not as good as I would like to be with it. It's frustrating that it doesn't make me feel happy all the time, but but I love it because I stick with it. I think that's, yeah. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. I haven't. I've tried to verbalize this a few times with my nieces and nephews, and I feel like I fall flat on my face most of the time when I try to explain it. I think it comes as part of the process. I have the same issue with writing. Sometimes it's frustrating, but at the same time I love it. Yeah, and that's maybe that's the best way to explain it. It's like it's frustrating, but I love it. And most work that when somebody finds their job, like the thing that they're meant to do, I think that's how they explain it. So hopefully I'm just not parroting and being an NPC when I say these things, but it's always dumbfounded me with my artwork that I'm not more. And some of it is complacency and laziness. I mean, I grew up playing a lot of video games, and I know that was a lot of fun, but it wasn't necessarily good for my work ethic. So, but I found I probably work too hard. I've had to learn how to step back and just enjoy things sometimes. So part of this is my personality as well, and so it's hard to sort through all that, the complexity of who I am. And everybody's complex. It's just, yeah, it takes effort. Yeah. Oh, I was talking about a video. What's the channel? Can't remember the channel. This is that beige down here. It's a gaming channel that does pre-recorded like review videos, and she was talking about the Atari Jaguar CD. It came out just a little while ago. In fact, let me pull it up. Let me find it. So if you guys want to pull it up, YouTube Atari. My keyboard is off to the side here, so I use it for shortcuts in my painting program. But I have this big monitor. It comes down. Where are you? It should just pop up here. Yeah, and she's done 2 videos. Let me bring this over to the browser really quick, and I'll try to remember to go back to my painting. So it's this Lady Decade, and I've actually watched quite a few of her videos, and I enjoy it. I may even be subscribed to her. But man, she did this. And see if it's not showing up here. Just a few days ago, like a week ago. Yeah, right here. Why did the Atari Jaguar CD fail? She's brutal. Like she comes down on it hard. And she has a lot of really good points that I agree with. But there's a few things where it's first of all, I felt that they were a little bit lazy with their research and their script. So at the beginning of the video, they're talking about Blue Lightning somewhere around the beginning, and then towards the end of the video, they bring it up again and they start calling it Blue Thunder for some reason, which is bizarre. Maybe she was making fun of it. Maybe I just missed the joke, but it just didn't feel like it was set up as a joke. Another thing I noticed too was they said, I think I know which one, a British lady. Yes, yeah. So sorry, I missed your comment, dataset user. Anyways, the other thing that got me, and there's a few, I should have written down some things and done a reaction video, but that's what a smart YouTuber would do. She said there never was, and hopefully I'm quoting her correctly, because I'm pretty sure she said there never was a game that utilized both the cartridge and the CD unit at the same time for content and stuff like that. And that isn't true if that's what she said, because I'm pretty sure she said something like there never has been or there never was, um, and that's not true, because there's oh gosh, the name is gone. Resurgence is oh gosh, I was just playing it the other day. It's a Songbird game. Songbird. We'll look it up so I don't sound too stupid. Oh, Protector Resurgence. That's what it is. Protector. And specifically Protector Resurgence, I believe. Yeah, because that's the CD unit. And so you plug in the cart and then you put in the CD and you have extra content, essentially. And so that has been done. I think she meant in the lifetime of the Jag, there was never a game that utilized. I think that's what they meant. And this is why I kind of go back. It felt like they didn't review their script very well, just double checking on things. So, and then there's the common jokes of, it looks like a toilet and stuff like that, which it kind of does. I'm not going to defend the Jaguar on its aesthetics, at least the CD unit. I actually like the aesthetics of the base console. I think it looks really cool. And honestly, I think the CD unit looks fine. Most people that I've talked about the design with the Jag, they don't notice that it looks like a toilet until somebody points it out. And I'm not saying that that's good design, because that isn't good design. Because you should be checking for those weird things with your design before you give it an okay. But yeah, but most people don't notice it when they see it. In fact, I've noticed that most people that are not familiar with the Jag at all are actually quite taken aback with the console. They think it looks cool. And I think that's what Atari was going for. They wanted something that looked cool. Pretty simple. And I think the CD unit does that. It fits the overall design. Whoever they got to do the physical design of the Jaguar, I should know the name of that person, tell you the truth. Whoever designed that, they knew what they were doing. Yes, saw both of her Jag videos, but the research is not well done on both, and she goes into it biased, so not really a documentary, but pure entertainment. Yeah, it's just entertainment, and that's how I frame it too. And that's how I was thinking about doing a quick reaction video, and just kind of go full Jag fan. Like I've been sniffing the fumes for, I don't know why I've been saying snuffing. Is snuff the right? Yeah, snuff. You like snuff drugs or something like that. Anyways, I was thinking about being like a hardcore Jag fan, just go over the top with it and say, no, the Jag is awesome. So I love the Jag, but I love it because I see its faults. We've had that conversation already, but yeah. Yeah, they're good videos though. Like they're well produced. I think she does a good job. It's obviously a performance, but I think she does a pretty good job. But yeah, the research was a little shaky on those videos, and it makes me wonder, like, is the research shaky on their other videos as well? I mean, and again, I'm kind of inside of the community and everything, but it doesn't take much research because most of the conversation's happening in one place on Atari Age, and so it doesn't take much to find out what's going on in the Jag scene. So I thought it was strange that they made those easy mistakes in the video. Ira Valinsky did it most probably. Is that her name? I'm missing the context. I moved through the conversation too quickly. Ira Valinsky did it most probably. The designer for the Jag, the console. Ira, it's probably Ira Valinsky, isn't it? I'm gonna pull that up. Thanks, data set user. Ira Valinsky. Atari Jaguar. Detailed. Oh, cool. There's some threads on it. Yeah, I'll definitely read through that. Because that's something that I should have looked into a long time ago. Because that's the kind of stuff I'm interested in. I'm kind of hopping around here in terms of what I'm painting. I got to figure out what I want to do here for his chassis, for his chest. So I have what looks like kind of a panel in the front with the Circle Reserves logo. And then it just goes dark. Like, I don't have much detail here, but up here I have kind of what looks like a plastic or metal cylinder, but it kind of smoothly forms into the shoulders and the clavicle. I kind of don't like that design. Maybe what I'll do is we'll do a dark area here, and we'll just have a cylinder for the neck, something cylinder like. Yes, asked about the designer's name for my research about the Jag, as there seem to be no patents concerning the design. Yeah, I've dug through the U.S. patents, at least what's available online as well, and the only things I could find were for the links. There's a lot of stuff, at least there's for the console, at least the visual look of the console, and for the cartridges. But yeah, the only things I could find were a trademark for the logo, the Jaguar logo, which went dead, but Atari just renewed those a few months ago, actually, which is a little bit concerning that they renewed those. But anyways, yeah, I think the reason why I did the research is all those mini consoles were coming out, and I'm like, if Atari doesn't have a patent on those designs, I mean, anybody could make a little Jaguar Mini if emulation or anything was up to speed. I know they got started on an FPGA thing, but that hasn't been finished. So I need to redo his shoulder here because oh no, this is right. I have kind of this coat thing going over, and then what would be the connector for the shoulder. Okay, this is working. This is right. I block this in effectively. See, what I kind of want to do for his neck is, you'll see up here with Trevor, he has kind of this chrome cylinder, segmented cylinder thing going on. I kind of want to repeat that down here, almost like he's made out of the same parts as Cat 5. Because Trevor, he has a... So here's some backstory. Here's some lore. Here's some deep, deep Trevor McFur in the Crescent Galaxy lore. So Trevor, this is the same Trevor, I call him Trevor McFur because I gave him that name. No, his name's Trevor McFur. Sorry. This is the same Trevor McFur from Flappy McFur. So this is a sequel to Flappy McFur. Audit will be watching. So when you see this is his head, but nothing else. The rest is a robot body. So he escaped that purgatory, which is Flappy McFur, and Panther here built him a new body, and so you have his head, and then his two paws, his disembodied paws, they're like down in the chest, controlling the rest of the robot. So, anyways, so what I'm thinking here is yes. Oh, sorry. You're continuing the previous conversation. The design of the case. Yes, him. Yes, asked about the designer's name for my research about the Jag, as there seem to be no patents concerning the design. Yeah. So, and I talked to, going back to this conversation, I actually talked to a patent lawyer about this. I happened to be working for someone who was working with a patent lawyer, and so I just a quick phone call, so nothing serious. And I asked him if there wasn't anything in design patents, what else somebody could do to protect that design. And he says what will often happen with product, especially if it's unique looking, what they'll do is they'll follow a copyright rather than a patent. and a copyright for sculpture. And the reason why is that protects it a lot longer than a patent would, and uh, it's a lot less to maintain that copyright than it is the patent. And he says it's a lot harder to dig through copyright than it is the patent stuff online. And so if you really wanted to find out if somebody is protecting that design, you'd want to search for a copyright. A filing for copyright, and he made it sound, and I should have asked for some more details on this, but he made it sound like you need to hire a patent or a copyright lawyer or a patent lawyer, because they should be able to do the same thing in this regard, and check for that to see if that's there. Because if it's copyright, and if it's US copyright, I think that's 85 years, if I remember correctly, that it's protected, period. They don't have to pay a fee. They don't have to do anything. It's protected. And so that would be the last frontier to check on, that is for a filed copyright. Now, technically speaking, as an artist, the artist, well, here's sorry, this is complicated. So Atari paid an artist to make something for them. So unless there's paperwork, though, the artist technically owns the copyright on that sculpture. So don't think of it as a console or a product. Think of it as a work of art. The artist owns that sculpture. Now, my guess is Atari had some sort of paperwork with the artist, hopefully, that says you are doing this as a work for hire. And that alone is enough in a court of law, especially if Atari's making money on the product, to say, yeah, you essentially handed over your copyright to Atari when you signed this work for hire agreement, or whatever it was. If he may have been an employee too, and if he was an employee, he definitely doesn't have any rights to it. But anyways, so it's really complicated. If there isn't anything filed under copyright that can be found, like on official files, you would have to contact whoever owns Atari now. Who is it? Hasbro or Infogrames or whoever, and see if they have a piece of paper, basically an agreement signed with that artist. And if they do, that's proof that they own the copyright. As an entity, they own that copyright. My guess is that they don't have a piece of paper, and so this is what's a little bit concerning about them renewing that trademark, that Jaguar trademark, is if so they renew it, and then they start producing product around it. That if they ever wanted to go to court with anybody producing content related to the Jaguar after 10 or 15 years of selling product themselves, a judge may say, again, I'm no lawyer, full disclaimer, a judge may say, this is just based on research and conversations I've had with people who are more knowledgeable about this than I am. The court would say, well, Atari's been making more money than you have off of this, and because of that, I'm going to side with Atari as an entity against some guy down in his basement producing a game. So that's the one concern with them renewing the trademark. Now, would Atari do that? Based on precedents, they send a lot of cease and desist letters out to people I know, and so that's probably as far as it would go. It probably would never go to court because it just isn't worth it to them. They'll just tell you to stop, or they'll threaten to take you to court. So that's the one concern about them renewing that trademark, is that over time they'd be able to do something. They'd be able to bully the little guy that's actually cared about the Jaguar for the last quarter of a century, where they have just outright neglected it. Now, if they took somebody to court right now with this brand new trademark, the judge would probably laugh at them and say, well, you didn't care about this trademark for 25 years, so you really don't have any ground to stand on in terms of stopping like Atari Age from selling games, or Songbird from selling games, or even a little guy from making or selling games. And so anyways, it's interesting. It might be a little bit in the realm of catastrophizing But with Atari, gosh, I wouldn't put it past them. I really wouldn't. Um, it's cool what they've been doing with the Atari VCS, but at the same time, they've kind of burned their bridges with older fans, I know. I'm not even an old fan, technically, and they've kind of burned the bridge with me. Like, I keep an eye on them just like everybody else does, in hopes that one day a good thing will come back. But sad fact is most of these old IPs, these old companies and games and cultures, they died a long time ago. And that iteration of them died a long time ago. And the reason why I like the Jag community so much is it's not Atari anymore. It's turned into this something that a bunch of people rallied around, and we call ourselves Jag fans, and we create games for it. And I don't have a single word for that, but it's awesome. It's really cool that we have so much being produced for the Jag now, more than what Atari was doing back in the day. And that is something to be proud of, and that's what I'm concerned about with Atari. I honestly don't care much for Atari outside the fact that they may cause some headaches for some of us. That's it. I hope it doesn't happen, though. I kind of wish I had put the money down and bought the trademark just to get Atari after me, just so I had some content to talk about on YouTube. And to just protect the trademark in the sense that this belongs to everybody. And now that's kind of uncertain. It's a little bit uncertain. I should have been a little more forward thinking about that, especially after Atari announced that they were producing new old games for the Atari 2600 with their, what do they call it? Atari XP, I think that's what it's called. Which is cool that they're selling new Atari 26 physical Atari 2600 games. I think that's awesome. They should have been doing this 15 years ago. I'm glad they're starting to figure it out. Because Atari Age and Songbird have been doing it for 25 years. Like, and it's worked. They have a business. Now, I don't know if that's everything that Carl and Al do. But it seems like for Albert, it is his living now because it's so busy. There's so much going on. And so I'm worried that Atari's going to come down on that and say, no, you can't do this anymore because it messes with our brand, you know? And gosh, yeah, I hope that doesn't happen. I don't think it will, but yeah. Again, after what Atari did with Jeff Minter and what was it, Tempest X2 on the PSP, it's just like, really, guys? You should have just approached Jeff and say, hey, we want some royalties from this and our logo on the box. Like, pretty simple. Instead, we're just going to burn a bridge. And you know that bridge was rebuilt with Tempest 4000. But, yeah. Yeah, Atari's a weird thing. I'm kind of glad I'm at the same time I'm a little bit sad that the Atari we once knew died, but I'm kind of glad too because we can see this necromancy corpse walking around that calls itself Atari. Sorry, maybe I'm being a little too mean. Maybe I'm probably being a little too mean here. I appreciate their efforts in keeping an old brand alive, but it just won't ever be the same. I think they know that. I think most quote-unquote Atari fans know that as well. Okay, I need to add an extra color. I'm kind of meandering here. So what I'm doing right now, I'm kind of getting into the details of some sections here. And the reason why I'm doing that is I'm establishing a template for the rest of the robot in terms of color. And once I get a few sections worked out, in fact, I'm pretty much there. I can start blocking in a little bit quicker on the rest of this design. I also have to decide if I'm gonna. I was looking at this yesterday, and I feel like I got into maybe a little too much detail in some areas, and I might break down that detail so it's a little more ambiguous, so your mind kind of fills in the pieces. Like down here on these legs, I'm thinking about just filling them in kind of with a shadow color, just really rough. and just leaving the faces detailed, but the rest of it a little bit looser to draw the eye. But anyways, oh, that was a little bit of an Atari rant. I've haven't done that in a while. Honestly, I do appreciate what they're trying to do. Like I bought an Atari VCS. I wanted to support that because I thought it was awesome that they were really leaning into that very old Atari name. But at the same time, I realized that it won't ever be the same. So, and I shouldn't have any delusions that it will be the same. It felt like an Ouya scenario, with the Atari VCS. I think that's the reality with it. I was looking at the store the other day, and when I got the Asteroids promo code, and it was kind of sad to see how few games there actually were in the store. I think it's less than 100. Yeah, I'm fairly certain it's less than 100, which is a bit sad, but not entirely unexpected. Let's see here. I think I want to do just a more saturated red on when this light terminates. Yeah, like that. That feels good. Oh, he has. We'll add those in later. I'm not too worried about those. We'll add that in later. Hopefully I'll remember to add it in later. Oh, yeah, that's looking pretty good. So, dataset user, what do you write? You write fiction or do you do nonfiction? I'm actually trying to get into a better habit of reading. There wasn't a huge, like, my parents always read books, but there was never a huge push to read books. I grew up reading Christian scripture, and so every morning, every night, we'd read the scripture, and that's why I'm able to read. That's one thing I'm thankful for. My parents is doing that with us every morning, every night, even though as a kid you hate it, but I am thankful that they put in the effort to do that because I can read. I read just fine, and I do enjoy reading. It's finding the time to do it. I enjoy video games more than I enjoy reading. I suppose that's what it is, but I've been in the last few years I've been making a concerted effort to sit down and read actual books, and I've really enjoyed it. I've slowed down too. I found that there's my comprehension and my speed don't play well, and so I've slowed down my reading just so I can remember more. Because I hate reading a really, really long book and only remembering like 5% of it. And I don't know how much of that is the book's fault versus my fault. Because if a book isn't good, you're not going to remember most of it, or not want to remember most of it at least. So. Have you published any books, dataset user? I've published a couple books, self-published. However much credit that has, and just art books. And you guys are probably already familiar with that work that I did. Let's see here. I'm starting to mix things up here a bit. Kind of want to push this into. Let's see here. Get those beiges to come out just a little bit. Okay, yeah, we're gonna do that over here as well. And right here. In fact, this is gonna go down like that. And then these are our light grays. Yeah. Yeah, that Atari Jaguar CD video. I appreciate it when people do Jag content because it seems like there's been more recently, and I think that is because of the homebrew scene. There's been a lot of attention. The SD card reader coming out. I think people that are in the realm of creating, video game entertainment on YouTube outside of just streaming, they've we've their attention has been caught just a little bit. Because of all the stuff happening. So they're like, oh, we haven't done an Atari Jaguar video. We should do an Atari Jaguar video. Yeah, that console sucked. Trying to decide how I want this to work. I feel like his hip is a little long. Yeah, that's what's going on. Let's paint this all out, start over. So I think I want to do kind of a cylinder on the inside here at his torso. Like that. Then he has like this crotch guard thing going on. Try to get my perspective correct. That's why I flip the canvas, by the way. It's a great way to make sure your perspective's working, because what happens when you're painting is you kind of your eyes get used to the image you're looking at, and so if there are mistakes, your brain starts ignoring them or correcting them in your head, at least when they're still in reality a mistake. And so flipping the canvas, what that does is it tricks your mind into thinking you're looking at a completely different image. And if there's mistakes, you'll see them. If you've at least trained your eye a little bit for it. Especially perspective. Like perspective, just it'll stick out like a sore thumb. He's got kind of this notch going on. He has a big cylinder thing here where the leg attaches. Right there. He has that on the other side too, over there. But I don't think we're gonna see it because it's kind of behind. He has this cylinder thing popping out. It actually goes a little bit further. It's underneath the arm here. But then he has kind of this beige diaper thing going around here, like that. What I need to do is figure out where this cylinder terminates. Kind of goes like this. Yeah, there we go. Something like that. Oh. Let's see here. What have I been reading? I read very slowly. I don't read a lot. Because it's still not my favorite thing to do, and so I don't give it the time it probably deserves. And the other reason why I've started reading more is like, well, if you're gonna write, you need to read more, Will. So I've been feeling a little bit guilty about not spending more time in books. And it's weird because in school I always enjoyed the assignments. I was in like junior high and high school. I was in accelerated programs for school. I've never had a problem with school and academics. Um, School isn't my favorite thing, but it was something I had no problem doing in general. And I always enjoyed the books that they assigned us. So you read things like in the advanced classes, you read Shakespeare, um, things like The Scarlet Letter, Pride and Prejudice, that kind of stuff. And I always enjoyed that. So you'd think I'd like reading more, but again, it just comes down to priorities, and and video games always took a higher priority, unfortunately. Oh yeah, that shape feels better. And now we can wrap his diaper around. I shouldn't call it that, huh? This needs to go a little further out, like that. Yeah, that feel good. The shadow's gonna cast over here, so we're not gonna see that whole thing. Anyways, what I've been enjoying is old pulp fiction, from like the 1920s and 30s. So like Conan the Barbarian, The Shadow. I've been reading and listening. I've been doing some audiobooks with that, and that's been really enjoyable. That's why that didn't feel right. I am not liking this. This is not working. Something like that, maybe. Yeah, so Conan's really good. I've really enjoyed Conan the Barbarian. Um, I like how short each story is, and I was talking to somebody at a family get together about Conan, and I realized something that I really like about it, is Robert E. Howard. He reinvents Conan almost every story. He's a little bit different every time, and I really like that because that's part of the anticipation of reading those stories. Is you don't know what kind of adventurer he's going to be. Is he going to be that um, ice cold brute that is depicted by Arnold Schwarzenegger in Conan the Barbarian? Or is he going to be the swashbuckling adventurer, kind of like a happy version of Jack Sparrow? Sometimes he's that. Um, Sometimes he's just an observer. Like my favorite Conan story is Beyond the Black River, and I suggest this to anybody. It's just good. It's good story material. I really like it. That's what's wrong. It's a little too close. There we go. And in that story, he is an active participant in what's going on, but he's more of an observer. Like he's at this border town, and or this border garrison that the fringes of civilization, and he's been a guard there at this outpost for a while, keeping back the barbarians, keeping back the really the old world. trying to keep that at bay. But the issue is that city people, the people outside, the people who haven't been out on the frontier, have kind of been ignoring their responsibility in funding and maintaining those border towns. And so Conan, he's just out. And that's the thing about Conan, is in some stories he is kind of a meathead, but in some stories he's the philosopher, and I like how he gets reinvented in those stories. It's really good. Very much enjoy Conan. But yeah, Beyond the Black River is really good. That's the only one I remember the title of, and I think that's why I like it so much. It's just like, oh, it was good enough for me to remember the title of it. But yeah, they're all short stories. They're all like 50 pages long, somewhere around there. Um, Very well. And Robert E. Howard has a way of writing that is, the way he does descriptions, he can somehow do these very brief descriptions, but they're incredibly vivid. It's very much not Tolkien, like J.R.R. Tolkien. It's it's very different way of writing, but still, for me, very effective, in my opinion. Very effective. So, I want to do a, let's do this, let's use this. Have this drop down the side, or drop down towards the middle a little bit. So we have something that looks like it's connecting. And I have like this segment going down the center. Right down the center, like that. So maybe there's some cables or something that, this is like a little doorway that opens up so you can access the spine or the guts of his system. I've also been reading, or actually I just finished this book, and it took me like 2 or 3 years to finish it because I was only reading a few chapters at a time. And very good book though. Not It's a nonfiction. It's a book about China, and I went to China. I spent a few years in Taiwan actually, living there, learning the language, and and I wish I had read this book before I went, because the book, I was watching a YouTube video where somebody was talking about Taiwan, and they mentioned this book, and they're like, you read this book if you, as a Westerner, want to understand Chinese people better and Chinese culture better, and if you're Chinese, this is the book you read if you want to understand Western people and specifically Western Europeans better. And so I decided to give it a read, and very, very enlightening. The guy who wrote it was a Taiwan man. I believe he was born, or he was Chinese, and he was born in I think he was born in Xi'an, which is the old capital of China, and he started his life there, but he was educated Western, but went back to China, and so I think he considered himself a little bit of an authority of both cultures, both Western and Chinese cultures, because I believe in his teens he was sent to the West to be educated in the West, in Europe, in France or England or somewhere, which wasn't uncommon back then for wealthy Chinese people to do. It's common today. Anyways, really informative book on the differences between the culture, where problems arise and where there's solutions, why people do things that they do in China. Very informative, and the reason why I wish I had read it is because it would have clarified a lot of reactions that confused me and how I frame things when talking and working with Chinese people. Would have been very useful. But anyways, very good book. Man, there's one line, and I need to memorize this because it left such an impression on me. But there's a line in there. The book was written in the late 1920s, I believe, or somewhere between like 1928 and 1935. So it was before World War II ended. And he was talking about, it was a section where he's talking about the differences, cultural differences between the Japanese and Chinese. And it was the comment was something to the effect of because of these differences with how Japanese people deal with politics and outside forces, that Japan will gosh, I almost want to go grab it because I'm not going to do it justice, but to the effect, he alluded in my mind, he prophesied in my mind of the atomic bombs being dropped on Japan. Like when I read the first time I read it in this book, I reread it like 20 times because I'm like, did I read that right? Like, am I interpreting this correctly? That's how surprising it was. It was amazing how forward-thinking the comment was before that happened, because nobody could have predicted that. The bombs were, for the most part, there were rumblings. From what I've heard, I haven't done research on this, but from what I heard, there were rumblings that there was something big going on in terms of researching a new weapon and stuff like that, but nobody knew that was going to happen until it happened. The average person certainly didn't know. And so to read somebody just basically make a prediction like that, like, it was just the way he framed it. He talked about fire and just a massive, like, the way it was framed is just, and it could just be the lens I'm seeing it through, because I've always like, I remember in junior high and high school I wrote about the Japanese quite a bit. This is because of my anime obsession at that time. But I read a lot about the internment of the Japanese in the United States and Canada. And so I had an interest in. So when I saw this Chinese guy talk about World War II, basically a decade before any of that happened, pretty surprising. So, hey, the robot's looking a lot better. Still has a long way to go, but looking a lot better. Sorry, I know you guys probably didn't want to talk about world culture, world history, stuff like that. So something I got recently, I actually got a few things. I got I ordered, again, he's not a sponsor or anything, but I got I believe it's called a BenVen SD card. I haven't even pulled it out of the bag yet. Let's see if I can. Or sorry, the BenVen SD. It's the El Cheapo SD card. I'll focus. Will you focus? No, it's not going to focus. Anyways, I have Saints SD card, the Lynx SD. I think that's what it's called, Saints SD card or something. And that works pretty well. The contacts, it is finicky getting it to make contact with the pins on the cartridge slot. That one, I haven't tested this one out yet. Oh, it has an SD card. I didn't even realize it came with one. That's cool. But I got a second one for multiplayer games. I've been wanting to play. I do have a couple copies of Xenophobe, but I want to do. I wanted an extra copy. I would like to do 4-player Xenophobe with my siblings, with my brothers. I know that's a game we all pretty much enjoy, so that's why I got it. And to have a backup SD card too, because if I'm going to start streaming, it'll be nice to have some backups. Yeah, it's looking good. Oh my goodness, it's almost 8 o'clock already. I've been rambling. I've been moving pretty slow through this too. Haven't worried about moving through it quickly for sure. I feel like I need. Let's see here. What am I doing with these guys? I pretty much have two light sources in here. I have this thing in the background, which is kind of, I'm assuming, wraps around here to the right. But then I have this kind of blue light that's shining here from the left. I feel like I need a top light of some sort, but if I start doing that on the robot, I'm going to have to do that across everybody else. So what I'm thinking, well, actually, I just got to figure out the shadows here. So we hit this, whatever this is on the side of his head. It's going to cast a shadow, but we will have some light here, like that, right there. This will cast a shadow to about here. The pick is again not visible. Thanks. Sorry. I was doing so well yesterday with that. I was proud of myself. I'm like, yeah, I switched it every time, and now I'm completely dropping the ball. See, professional productions, they have somebody assigned to switching. This is why I should get married and have kids, because I can get a 5-6 year old switching for me, and make it fun somehow for him, because it'd probably be pretty boring for him. Yeah, block in some light there. We need to do something with his neck as well. Let's go ahead and create our block in our line there for that. I just don't know. I need to adjust the local colors for some of these highlighted areas, because some are going to be darker than others. It's going to be a cylinder down there. Maybe what we do is we go down like that, pull this over, and there's going to be a seam right here that curves around, shows his neck like that. Oh yeah, that looks cool, doesn't it? Yeah. See, doesn't that color feel so much better once you shift the hue and the saturation a little bit? Look, feels great. Okay, so this comes back kind of at an angle for some reason. Not sure why I designed it that way, but we'll go with it. And this will be curving up and back like that. And we may do a core shadow there at some point, but just get this blocked in a little bit. I should have blocked this in a while ago. Sorry, I shouldn't whistle into the microphone. I do have some music playing, so I do like to paint with music. So we're going to do a little bit of a core shadow along this edge, like that. Then this is separated. This will be casting a shadow like that, but will meet up here. Let's see here. How do I want that to wrap around? We're gonna have to repaint some of Panther here later. Yeah. And this actually, see, he has this red thing on the back, and I'm not sure what I was thinking with that. I think his arms, like, they would have a joint there, but I was also thinking that his arms could like slide in if he needed them to be shorter for whatever reason. I don't know why I was thinking that. See, I kind of have something going on here, or kind of like a shoulder talon or spike on the back, that he could extend and use to climb or something. I don't know. I had some sort of idea going on there. Not sure. This is the other problem with leaving paintings for years is if you don't block things out effectively, you'll forget. You just won't remember what needs to, or what you were thinking. So there's going to be a joint or something right there. We need to cast a shadow. I think I do want this to go all the way down. About that far. And then a shadow is going to cast right there. Around it. It's going to be round. I think I want that to be a little bit round. Work on this. Cut up the silhouette here. Actually, I do need to work the silhouette back here a bit. Like that. There we go. We'll have to figure out how that all works back there a little bit. Because it's going to be highlighted. In fact, this is all going to be highlighted back here. It's going to have this really cool rim. Not rimming. That's a bad word. Rim light back here. Where his hip connects to his torso. Like that. Something like that. Yeah, that area is starting to make sense, and it looks pretty cool too. That's the bonus. Make it make sense, and then figure out the rest. So that's beige, but I think... See, I was thinking that his bicep here is more of a panel, and then you can kind of see the guts in there. Thanks, dataset user. Yeah, it's starting to look good. I remember the last time I worked on this, I'm like, that robot isn't going to look good, but I should have just stuck with it. Should have stuck with it a little bit longer. Love the light and effects. Yeah, I like this backlighting motif, this burning planet in the background. I think the idea, I could be changing now that I'm thinking about this again, but so the game, you're stranded on a planet, right? And so we have this planet in the background, but I wanted this fire coming up because it connects to a couple things. It connects to the danger of the planet in general, that it's a survival game, right? And so if there's a lot of fire, the idea is that you stay away from it to survive, or if you're in it, you try to get out of it to survive. Because that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to get off this planet but survive long enough so you can actually do that. The other idea is part of your survival is to light a fire, make sure a fire is lit every day. And so I'm like, oh, it'd be cool to have this big kind of plasma looking fire in the background, kind of abstract. Like, I don't want it to look exactly like a fire. I wanted to keep the background a little bit loose. We'll be tightening it up a little bit more before this painting's finished, but yeah, I agree with you. The lighting worked out very well for this painting. So what I was talking about here is there will be this beige panel in the front, But I think, well, it's gonna be weird. I gotta actually define what this metal, because I think I want this more to, this metal that goes up under the pauldron here to be more chrome. I just gotta make sure I figure out this shape here before I start defining that. I wanted this to come down to more of a point down here. Not a point, but just have it narrow up just a little bit. And this, I'm going to narrow this bar up a little bit more. Yeah. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. We'll definitely push these highlights. Like, I want to push these highlights a little bit further and even add a little bit of yellow to them. So he has this really cool, like this cool rim light going on. So something like that. Make them really stand out against these darker areas of Panther and General Patent. Ha 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 ha. Isn't that name wonderful? Well, I think I'm going to stop here. We're coming up on 8 o'clock my time. I did not make as much progress as I wanted to. I think I talked too much, but we'll need to work in the details, some shadow details with the bars here. I think I do need to, so like up here at the head, we just kind of have these empty shadows going on. I think I do need a little bit of light in there, especially if I'm going to make some stuff chrome. Just something really subtle, just another blue light that's kind of over here somewhere, and we can cheat it a little bit. That's the cool thing about illustration, about painting stuff. This is the one advantage painting has over photography, and that's what you could call exaggeration, where you can push and pull reality a little bit. And you can do that with photos too, but it's post-production, so it goes into that painting realm anyways. And so yeah, so what I'm thinking is faking a light to fill in these. So as an example, it doesn't need to be much, but just a little bit like that to kind of make sense of some details here in the shadow. I don't want too much there. I want to keep it kind of loose. So maybe there's a vent in there or something for some reason to kind of just fill in these shadows just a little bit, and it'll make the shadows a little more interesting too, because right now they're kind of flat with the color that's being used for them. And so anyways, something like that, just it adds to the 3D effect as well a little bit. Yeah, anyways, I might he feels a little undersaturated compared to the rest of the crew, so I might go in and saturate him a little bit more as well. And his head actually doesn't feel right. I feel like it needs to go back a little bit further, like this, something like that. This will allow us to move his neck out just a bit, make him a bit beefier. Cool. Yeah, that feels a bit better. I think he's turning out to be a pretty cool cat. Pretty cool robot cat. Anyways. Alright, I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thanks for joining me. Matt Smith, if you're still there, thanks for stopping by. I really do appreciate you guys stopping in and at least saying hi. That's awesome. I know people are busy. They're probably way busier than I am. I mean, I find time in my early mornings to do this, so I must not be that busy. But and dataset user, thanks for chatting. It's yeah, the Jag is I've been thinking a lot because I've been writing this book. I've been thinking a lot about the Jag and kind of its position in relation to other consoles in a modern context, while keeping the past in mind, because this whole retro thing with yeah, Matt, we'll catch you next time. I'm probably gonna ramble here for a little bit longer if you want to stick around. There's with the retro resurgence, as some people call it, I really think a lot of this is manufactured by YouTube, to tell you the truth. Just the fact that there's so much retro content being produced, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm actually saying that's a really good thing, because there's potential for new content, legitimate, not legit, just content that has a lot of effort. There's a lot more incentive for people to be producing content for old consoles. I mean, you see that with all the homebrew stuff coming out on the Game Boy, on the ZX Spectrum, on the Commodore 64, even on more relatively obscure things like Atari ST. Like, even the Atari ST's seen some actual products being sold outside of peripherals like games. And so it's amazing to see that, and it's amazing to see the Jag have so much life again, and we are performing a little bit of necromancy here, and so I'm not saying that the Jag has been reborn. You know, it's definitely not that, but there is something here that is meaningful in terms of what it's doing for people, for people's lives. That sounds a little cringy, like cheesy, but there's obvious value in it. Like, for me, there's been tons of value because I've been able to push my illustration skills. I've used it as an excuse to learn to program. Like, those are all valuable things that I've used in my day job. Like, I'm surprised at how much I've used not C code, but because I've learned C code, I'm able to dive into scripting languages and stuff like that. Like, I have my own render farm here at home with just a bunch of old PCs all tied together, and because I know a little bit of programming, I have all these scripts set up that allow me to turn the computers on and off, stop and start render jobs and stuff, and I've figured that out on all on my own, and that's because of the Jag. And so there's meaning there, and that's the book I want to do. I want to explore that a little bit, and I want to explore that here on stream. I know that's kind of maybe I'm acting a little bit more big brain than I actually am, but I would like to talk about that more, because I think there's some value in this community outside of just playing games. I think there's an opportunity to create and build something around the Jag and all these consoles. Anyways, enough of that. Maybe I'm thinking about it too much. Anyways, yeah, again, thanks for watching, guys. If there's anybody else in the chat, thanks for watching as well. If you're watching this after the fact, again, if you've made it this far, thanks for watching. The usuals, like, subscribe. I have links in the description. Next week, Matt and Dataset have given me ideas for what to play, and so we're going to play Kings of Edom and Rebooteroids. I haven't played Kings of Edom. I played earlier this year, I believe, but Rebooteroids I haven't played since its release, basically, and I've been meaning to put some more time into that. It's a fun game. It's a good game. I'd like to get somebody else on the stream to play multiplayer with, because it has a co-op mode, which is unusual for an Asteroids game like that. It'd be fun to give that a try. Maybe I'll talk my brother into coming downstairs to the studio here the last 30 minutes and play with me or something. We'll see. Anyways, have a great day, everybody. Have a great week, and we will see you next week. Bye.